So my name's Dan Armstrong and I'm a musician producer. I'm of middle age. I'm based in the UK. I'm married with two grown-up kids and I've got a Labrador called Barney. How, how to get into music? Well, I, I tend to prefer playing music rather than actually listening to it, which is a weird thing to say because I actually love listening to music. But it's just that invariably when people are listening to music, unless they're doing it for just the sole purpose of that's what I'm doing, it's normally to accompany other things like driving or working and I kind of struggle with that because I get so lost in the actual listening experience. I can't do that much else. So I've always been quite envious of people, and back in the student days where people would put on their music and carry on working, and I just couldn't do that. I'd find myself listening to one of my CDs, and next thing you know, I'm sat there just listening to the music. It was great fun, but obviously not the best way to be productive. Um, but I mean, I've played keys and piano and everything since I was really young, and that kind of continued when I went to my secondary school. They were super supportive, and that then put me on the path to going to college, where I went to one of the sort of like the first music production courses around at the time, and thoroughly enjoyed that. Really got a taste of what the whole production thing, engineering, studios, and all that type of thing was about. Went on to do a higher level programmer, HND, with that, and found myself in a position where one of the tutors was linked to one of the pop groups in the UK, called UB40, and he actually recommended me for an assistant engineer job with the recording studios, and so literally found myself being dropped in to this whole commercial world of working with famous people, talented musicians, and that then built up, and did sort of engineering, programming, additional keys, then finally production, and yeah, had a great time with it, and it got to the stage where I found myself thinking, well, what else do I want to do? And I wanted to give back, and found myself back at a college, and basically teaching, lecturing, music production, engineering, programming, all that type of stuff, and that's been absolutely brilliant. And yes, so that's and I still kind of do that to this day, along with the music stuff. So yeah, I'm writing mostly sort of like electronic instrumental music, predominantly sort of like chill out, ambient, that type of genre. Although I also do pop music and other genres, and always have done. So yeah, my creative process tends to be more so based on sounds and textures. That's what really inspires me. I'm kind of lucky that I've got my own studio and all the synths and the toys and everything. So I'm always sort of like delving into sounds and everything. But this whole thing of inspiration, it comes from all sorts of points, and like a great many other musicians, invariably it's that usual thing, as just as you're going to sleep, this idea comes into your head, and oh yeah, I'll remember that, and of course next day you don't. So it's normally running straight downstairs, or using voice notes and the mobile phone. I do an awful lot of that when I'm out walking the dog, and but it's a bit different when you're a vocalist per se, or a lyricist, because it doesn't look quite as strange when you're talking into your phone, or you're using the Bluetooth earpieces and everything. I tend to sit there sort of like creating sort of like riffs, melodies, beats, and while I'm walking the dog, I'm sort of like almost beatboxing it into the phone and making all sorts of weird and wacky sounds, and then talking through what the sound's going to be, which obviously does get a few strange looks, yeah. So yeah, collaborations. That's a really weird one. I've done some really good collaborations and team-based productions and co-writing over the years, and with some fantastic people. It is kind of weird though, because despite having done this for quite a few years now, I still get this phenomenon of imposter syndrome, that why are these people wanting to work with me? It's they could be working with so many other better people, but yeah, it's a mindset thing. So when I do get to the point where people want to collaborate, it's fabulous, and it's so fascinating and flattering. Um, but there's also this other thing, that one of the commonalities these days is to basically, you DM someone and go, do you want to collab? And it's like, but that's in theory, well, yeah, that'd be great, but who are you? And there doesn't seem to be as much of the, well, let's build up some sort of understanding as to where we're coming from, because that will make the collaboration even better. So I do prefer that, even when I'm working with artists, whether that be as a client thing or as a collaboration, co-write, all that type of stuff, I like to at least have a chat with people and sort of know about them. And so that always comes first, because that helps and with the entire creative process. Well, yeah, I mean, in today's marketplace, where uh, the music consumer has got so much variety and option. This, swipe up, down, left, right, all that type of stuff. Move on, next thing. Um, to get anyone to get to that point where they sort of like stay on your page, listen to your music, is absolutely amazing, and it shows that you've done something that triggers them in a positive way, and it's just that fascinating bit where people are then taking their time to listen to your product, and hopefully it then actually resonates with them. So yeah, I mean, I suppose the big thing that's most important is to say to anyone who listens to music, visits the pages, interacts, is simply thank you. So, what's my most useless talent? I have to admit, I can tell when a picture or a painting's on the wall and it's incorrectly balanced, or it's not level. Does that count? Do I sing in the shower? Well, as you've probably guessed so far, I actually struggle with the whole premise of talking, let alone doing any singing. So uh, the singing voice is somewhat that that whole side has eluded me, and I'm always in awe and wonder of people who can sing. It's brilliant. But to turn it around, I in the studio, I do actually have to fight past that bit, and when I'm trying to convey melodies or ideas to artists, I do have to kind of open my mouth, sing, and hope that the idea that was in my head actually comes out in some way that the artist doesn't sit there and go, "Oh, really?" Right? And they actually understand it. So that's not quite singing in the shower, but singing in the soundproofed studio where no one else is ever going to hear it. Does that count? Yeah, if I wasn't in the music thing, I'd probably be in something like property or finance, because I find them fascinating. But slight problem is that I'm not very good at maths. So yeah, the internet, probably both a blessing and a curse at the same time. I mean, it's obviously enabled the from the both the artist and the consumer a level of interaction that's never ever been there, and that's going to be brilliant, because obviously in earlier days the artist remained somewhat elusive and had that element of mystery, which now you can actually interact with the artist directly, and you can message them, you can converse with them. Hopefully they actually get back to you as well. I mean, I know I certainly do. I love to hear from anyone who's got any comments about me or my music and all that type of stuff. I'm flattered that they take an interest. So I mean, that's going to be a really good thing. The fact that it's also opened up the music business so that anyone and everyone, if you've got a musical or opinion or thought that you need that creative outlet, the internet's been fantastic for that. Yeah, you've still got the issues of piracy and, you know, stream rates and all that type of stuff, which could be classed as piracy in itself. But yeah, I mean, as a whole, it's been quite a good thing. I think the challenge, because everything is so out there, is that when you get to the point where you see people more so in a real world, real life environment, from an artist perspective, you've got to be able to offer something else. Otherwise, it's just the same as, well, oh, you're the same as you are on the internet. So I mean, for like my live material, I'm trying to add other elements to it so that it's a different experience, and I suppose that's what we are trying to do with the internet, and particularly right now, is offer other experiences, other value. So which songs do I like to perform? I kind of like performing them all, because it's more so about what the audience is hearing, and what they're enjoying. You know, it's nice to get that verbal feedback, visual feedback from when you're playing the tracks, and yeah, it's I don't really have a preference. So what's the most trouble I've actually got into? Yeah, I'm not really going to go down that route, because it could be incriminating. But I've had lots of fun with lots of bands and artists, and I think it's fair to say, using the movie quote, what's the first rule of Fight Club? Yeah, I think it's fair to say that I've only become an artist quite recently, or certainly a more public artist anyway. I've spent most of my life in studios and producing and working with other artists to improve their artistry and their products. And it just got to the point where, while it's great fun helping other people realise their creative outlets, despite having a few remixes and things like over the years, under pseudonyms and everything, I actually wanted to do something myself, and I was doing a collaboration with Cy Matthews for the Confront Phase project. And while we were waiting for the album to be released, obviously the ideas were starting to manifest themselves in a great many folders on the computer, and I just thought, right, well, let's keep on going. And it turned out that the ideas became the first album, which was ironically titled A Long Time Coming, because, yeah, sorry, my bad. It took a long time, but that was more so a confidence thing, that I didn't have that confidence to release my own material and be a little bit more sort of like out there. As to what changed and how I found that confidence, I don't know. It's not a question I've really delved too deep in, because simply because the confidence is there, and I'm not going to sort of do anything to jeopardise that. But yeah, the album got released, and much to my great surprise, again self-deprecation, it was received quite well, and particularly on the various forums and the social media stuff. I was getting feedback from people who purchased it, saying that, you know, they really liked it, and you know, that's always nice to hear. But it was also the fact that, no, I'd got the music out there, and it was stuff that I was pleased with and stuff that I was proud of. That then followed up with the second album, which was Artificial Intelligence, and it's a slight deviation from the specific sound of the first album, but there's an awful lot of hallmarks and references back to my style of music and my influences. I then got to the point where I was putting this material out with a view to trying to perform it. So I'd created new versions and edits and augmentations to the tracks to make them a bit more sort of like, you know, live performance friendly. And lo and behold, we're struck down with this global health crisis. So I did try and do some sort of like live streaming of aspects, but I've kind of held back now, just on the basis that when it all does come to pass, and we're in much brighter situations, there might be something of more interest to people to actually hear as a new concern. Obviously then, as this health crisis has progressed, it's afforded me time to not just work with other projects, collaborations, but I then started writing the latest album. Yeah. The latest album then is called Particles. It's 7 tracks, and they've been inspired by recent events. They've also been inspired by, obviously technology has developed in the meantime, and as I've mentioned before, I get an awful lot of inspiration from toys, equipment, software, sounds, textures. So as I'm going through sounds and tweaking and changing, it's sparking new ideas, and that's pretty much where the entire album came from, really. So do the tracks have hidden meaning? Well, yes and no. They certainly have meaning to me because they're based on the experiences, the inspiration, and what was going on when I actually came up with the ideas. And yeah, those tracks will have meaning to me. But for me to then say, well, those feelings and meanings are what you should be feeling as the listener too. That's not what I'm comfortable portraying. I think it's more so that when people listen to the music, sounds, music will resonate with them, and they'll think about the actual experiences that they've had, and that to me is much more important. Yeah, I'll have my meanings for me, and then the listeners will have their own meanings too. Yeah, I mean, I've got all sorts of influences, and it's artists who I've grown up with and um, impacted how I create music, and particularly with the ambient and the chill out stuff. Um, yeah, it's people like the Future Sound of London, Global Communication, Aphex Twin, William Orbit, Bill Laswell, Biosphere, Chicane, and yeah, it's. I've also got lots of influences in the pop world too, and other genres. Um, but I think the overarching generalisation is probably more so that my influences are born from what I would class as it's good, and to quantify that, that definition has certain parameters. Things like what the sonic's like, what the sounds like, what the chord progressions like, what the melodies like. Does it sound good? And to me, if it sounds good and I enjoy it and I get something out of it, I would class that as an influence. So yeah, I like to keep moving and always doing something. So currently, I'm putting together some of the starting points and the pre-production for the Particles album, incorporating it into the live side. So I'm changing things around, editing them up, looking at any visuals, and just thinking that bit through. I'm also doing some collaboration stuff and remixes, and start to get some more sound design together for other ideas. I do have a folder on the computer for a fourth album of other tunes that may manifest itself into that particular project, or I may use it for other things. I think the key thing is I try and set time aside, if not every day, certainly multiple times over the week. I don't force the creative process, um, but I do like to keep adding to the creative process and just keep on moving forward. So I think the key thing is just trying to keep busy.